Hey everybody, we're talking Record Store Day and Record Store Day Drops 2020. Stick around and we'll dive in. Alright, if you're like me, you are a record collector and a listener and look forward to Record Store Day every year. 2020 has been a bit of a strange one, of course, with the pandemic going on. If you remember how everything unfolded, we of course should have been having a record store day, or we should have had that record store day months ago in April, as usual. The list had come out, I think it was late February, it finally dropped. But a lot happened in a short period of time, and ultimately it was first postponed. We were supposed to have Record Store Day in June, and then finally they decided to hold Record Store Day as 3 individual drops on Saturdays over the course of August, September, and October. So the decision there was, it obviously gave record stores in various parts of the country a little bit more time to plan, not knowing what the health situation would be like, not knowing, if there's any restrictive laws in place or rules in place that might prevent a store from actually opening. So it just gave everybody more time to kind of plan things out and be ready. And it also, gave shoppers an opportunity to possibly spread that out. If they weren't comfortable going to a store, give them a little time to plan, maybe shop online or shop differently. Obviously, with the economy being what it is, you were given the opportunity, instead of maybe going in for one big spend, you could break it up over the course of 3 months. And then Record Store Day, the organization obviously gave record stores a little bit more leeway to sell online. Normally, a store can put their unsold inventory up starting the Sunday after Record Store Day, but this year they allowed shops to put their stock on sale online on the day of the drops. They had to give a little bit of a buffer. I think they told shops not to put their stock online until about 1 p.m. Eastern time, to give your local shoppers an opportunity to get merchandise first, but they obviously tried to spread things out a little bit and make it a little bit easier for those that maybe weren't comfortable going to a store, and also give some stores that maybe couldn't even physically open an opportunity to still participate and make back some revenue. So obviously when that list initially came out, I had a number of things on it that I was looking for. Typical year, it can range anywhere from a half dozen to a dozen plus titles that I'm interested in. I think, this year I was probably interested in about a dozen total. So I made a list of what I was looking for, and then through postponements and what I was looking for ultimately got split over 3 dates with a few asterisks attached to that as well. So I thought I would take you through, we just finished the second Record Store Day drop in September, so I'm going to talk a little bit about what I've picked up so far, what's coming in the month ahead, and then just kind of my overall thoughts of how things have gone. And then I also wanted to share just kind of that little pro tip, having been to every Record Store Day since Record Store Day 2. I didn't go to the first one, didn't know about it, but starting with that second one, because I had heard about a release that I was interested in from an artist that I liked, and just found out about it. I've gone to them ever since, from Record Store Day 2 on. So kind of give you a little tip of what I found recently, and why it pays to sometimes wait if you can. So first off, when that list initially came out, some things on it actually never even made it to the drops. The first thing that I ended up picking up was this 7-inch single from Best Coast. It is the Thank You 7-inch with the songs Birthday and Sweetness on it. These were 2 tracks. that were meant for or recorded as part of the Always Tomorrow session album that came out earlier this year. This was intended to come out for Record Store Day. They ultimately made this just an indie exclusive. It still has the Record Store Day logo on top of it, if you can see that at all. And it's just a basic 7-inch plain paper sleeve, plain black wax. Nothing out of the ordinary or crazy, but this was on my initial list, and I picked it up, I think, in May this came out. The next thing that I picked up was another supposed release for the original Record Store Day, and that was Neil Young's Homegrown. I say supposed because things got a little bit weird with this one. If you follow along on social media, you might have seen the original list before the announcement got leaked. Somebody had gotten hold of the catalog, the UK catalog, that goes to indie record stores where they can make selections and use it for ordering. And this was in it. And I remember the day the actual list came out, way back in February, I printed it out. I go circling the items that I'm, thinking about maybe picking up, and I'm like looking for Neil Young, and Neil Young is nowhere to be found. It just kind of disappeared from the list. I think it was maybe on the UK list briefly because that comes out a few hours earlier before the US list. But this was never actually, from what I could tell, ever on the US list. But it was intended for Record Store Day. Neil, the last few years, it has not been uncommon for him to put something out on Record Store Day as a Record Store Day first release, and then a week later or so we'll just put out the full album. A lot of times it's not even a whole lot different than what he would have put out, other than maybe having the Record Store Day sticker on it. So at some point in the spring, he did announce that this was going to come out. It's been kind of long talked about that this would be part of his archive release. It ultimately was released in June, I think on the date, either the day of what was supposed to be that original rescheduled Record Store date, or maybe it was the Friday before. But regardless, it was right around that time frame. It did come out. It has the Record Store Day release. They did make this somewhat of an exclusive release by including a 12-inch print that matches the album cover, and this is the only variation between the standard release that was more widely distributed and then the one that was available to independent record stores. So not really sure what happened in the interim there. It's possible that this was always intended to be part of Record Store Day, and then maybe there was pressing issues where it was going to run behind and they had to pull it. It wasn't going to be available for that original April date. And then, maybe with Neil knowing that he had a lot of projects lined up, because it's, as we know, there's another one just announced in the past week or so that's going to go up for sale. Another part of his archive is going to go for sale in November. So maybe wanting to keep pace and not have too much product coming out at the same time, he ultimately decided, well, let's just put this one out here during the summer and, get it out there, because that's how we meant to do it anyway. So, this is something that was high on my list one way or the other. I was going to pick this up whether it was a Record Store Day release or not. So very glad to get that. So then we fast forward to Record Store Day Drop 1. The list, now that list was the largest of the 3 drops. For me personally, it actually had the fewest items on it that I was interested in. That's kind of the cool thing with Record Store Day. You never know what is of interest. What I'm interested in might be something totally different than somebody else, and a drop or a date that might have nothing of interest to one person could be just a gold mine for somebody else. So the first Record Store Day drop in August, I didn't line up early for it. There were a couple things on my list that I really wanted, but for me, I only had two items on my list. I just couldn't justify waking up super early in the morning to get online for it. It wasn't something I really wanted to do. And also, having gone, this isn't my first rodeo, that kind of situation. So I knew that based on the quantities being pressed and based on just what I've seen through my history of going to Record Store Day, I kind of have a sense of which artists will be available a few hours later or even a few weeks later versus what's going to go in 10 minutes or 15 minutes or within 2 hours. So the first thing, and I've seen this on a number of videos that I've watched, folks saying like, I wasn't going to pick this up, but then I ultimately got it. And I think that was even for me too, was the 7-inch Lennon Instant Karma. I felt like this was overpriced, and I think a lot of people had the same sentiment that it was like $15, which for a 7-inch is about $5 overpriced. But I did really want to hear this one. I'm interested in the in that box set that's coming out in a few weeks, and I always loved Instant Karma. It's just one of my favorite Lennon songs. So I opted to pick it up. There's nothing really fancy about this one. It is just black vinyl, but they did reproduce the original UK pressing with the John Lennon side with Play Loud and the Apple logo, and the Yoko Ono side with the Apple logo saying Play Quiet. So I did listen to this. It sounds really great. I don't want to say I regret the purchase at all. But again, I think like a lot of folks that picked this one up, maybe a little bit disappointed in the cost of it based on what other items were going for. The other thing that I picked up was the U2 11 O'Clock TikTok EP. This one too, I thought was a hair overpriced. It was $20, $22, $24, somewhere in that range. I don't recall exactly. It's just a 4-song EP. The two original tracks that were on, this is a reproduction, sort of. The artwork's not the same, but it's an anniversary of the songs 11 O'Clock, TikTok, and Touch. They've been doing a lot. They did a single for Record Store Day Black Friday, which they put out this past fall. U2 is one of those bands that, regardless of what they're going to put out, I'm going to buy it because I'm a huge fan. So this is on my list. But again, they pressed something like 17,000 of these things. I knew that if I waited, I would get it without any issue. I showed up at noon. The store opened at 8. I had it, no problem. Came in a really nice gatefold. I think what we ultimately ended up paying for was the production quality on the packaging more than anything. But it did have a nice lined paper sleeve, and it came on a really nice kind of translucent blue wax. So I like this a lot. It sounds great. I love it. A couple of the live tracks that are on this were part of a recording in London, I think back in 1980. That concert was released on a pair of 10-inch singles a few years back for the fan club, but it wasn't the complete concert, and a couple of those songs that were on that are on this. So that was pretty cool. That's all I got. I did pick up a couple other things at that drop from the used bin. A couple things that I've been, just kind of stumbled on, got them at a good price, but nothing else specifically from Record Store Day. The second drop was, for me, I think the one that I was looking forward to most. It had the most items on it that I was really looking forward to getting. So that was one where I was going to get there early. I talked to the owner the few days before just about quantities and what they were seeing, and of the 4 things that I had on my list, 3 of the things they had plenty of, and I could have waited all day to get if I wanted to. The 4th item, which we'll get to in a minute, She said they did not get as many as they were expecting, even though they ordered a lot of them and there were a lot available, but it was a hot kind of item. And I got there early, and I'm glad I did because it was gone probably within an hour. So I got there, I want to say about just before 5 a.m. I was 10th in line, and they opened at 8 a.m. They didn't let anybody in the store. They took an approach similar to what Amoeba Records in LA was doing with a menu. You fill out your menu, you give it to them. They went into the side of the store. They pulled what you were looking for, brought it back out to you, and then you paid outside on the curb. They had a register set out, so that way you didn't have to go into the store. You kept social distancing. It was a really nice experience. And then at 10 a.m., I guess they opened up the shop just to normal shoppers at that point. And I don't live super close to the store. Otherwise, I probably would have gone back and checked some of the used items that they had put out fresh for the day. But it was really, this past Saturday for me was just getting some items that were high on my list. So the first thing I got, Brandy Carlisle, she was the Record Store Day ambassador this year. She did a pair of songs, Black Hole Sun, Searching with My Good Eye Closed, a couple Soundgarden tunes on this really cool 12-inch single, A Rooster Says, and she was backed by members of Soundgarden on it, which was pretty cool. Sounds great. It was a really nice recording, and the vinyl itself I thought was really cool. I would call it, I guess, almost Black Hole Sun vinyl. Really cool pressing. The flip side, both songs are on the A side, and on the back side of it you have an etching which kind of shows through. You probably can't see it too well on this, but it comes through the light, which is pretty cool. Sounds great. Glad I picked this up. It was a good price. I think it was $12 for a 12-inch single, which I'm not going to complain about at this juncture with the way prices have gone up over the years. But I thought actually the second round the pricing was much better than what I had picked up the first time. The second thing that I got, and this kind of goes along with the theme of would have been easy to get had I waited, was the Soft Parade stripped from the Doors. The Doors, every year they put out a release. They print like 15,000 of them. They do not fly off the shelves in most cases. This was not the full album of the Soft Parade. I was a little disappointed in that. I would have just liked to have gotten the full album, and what they did is they stripped out the orchestration, so the horns and stuff that are in songs like Touch Me are gone. It's just the band and the session musicians that may have sat in, but not the orchestrated music that went with it. It sounds great. This thing, I threw it on. I think this is the second thing I played when I got home, and I was blown away by the sound. I mean, it sounds fabulous, but it is only 8 songs, and I want to say 6 of them are actually the same track twice, different variations. The wax on it is pretty slick. It's clear. It's crystal clear. It just looks, you can see through that. Nice label. Just thought that was really cool. The part of it that I was a little frustrated with, slide that back in, is the outer sleeve. Just give me cardboard sleeves. It's this plastic thing. The disc sticks to it. I did see on another video somebody had a 12-inch square that they slid in to kind of give it some structure. So I actually took the disc out. It's in a MoFi sleeve. I threw a piece of cardboard behind it and between the inner or the outer, and that's kind of giving it a little bit more structure for when I get it on the shelf, because even the corners on that plastic PVC-ish jacket are already kind of bent, and that's how it was, and it just drives me crazy. But this was number 1711 out of 12,000, and I'm pretty confident if you haven't picked this one up yet, you still can. Third thing I got, and this is probably one of the best items that I did get, the replacements, the complete Incarcerated Live. The cool thing is I live in Wisconsin now, and this show was recorded in Milwaukee back in 1989. I actually have this on CD, so I was familiar with it. They put out a box set last year, and this was kind of two of the bonus discs was the full show. I thought it was a great show. This is a triple LP. It's just on black wax, so I'm not going to pull it out. Nothing unusual or interesting to look at on this one. The pricing was pretty good on it. It was under $40, which for a triple LP these days is a decent price. I mean, I would have liked to pay a little bit less for it, but overall, I thought that was a good price. Show is great. It sounds great. This was definitely a very satisfying pickup for me, and I've had a few people ask me about this one on social, and I said it's just great. If you can get it. So I love that one a lot. And then the last item that I got was kind of the one that I've wanted to get for years. I've actually been waiting for this one, more or less for 5 years now. And that is Fleetwood Mac's Alternate Rumors. They started, Fleetwood Mac, right around, I think it was 2016, put out Alternate Tusk. They put out like 5,000 copies of it. I bought it. I loved it. I thought it was great, kind of alternate listen to a classic album. And then the following year they did Alternate Mirage. And then the next year after that they did Tango in the Night. And I'm thinking after they did that third one, I'm thinking like, I would really like it if they went kind of backwards at the start of the Buckingham Nicks era and catch the first two albums that they did. And sure enough, last year was the Alternate Fleetwood Mac, which was the first album in the Lindsey Buckingham, Stevie Nicks era, kind of that classic pop lineup of the band. So after that one came up, I'm like, next year, here it is. It's going to be Rumors. And sure enough, it got announced. So not only did I have to end up waiting, though, that 5 years or 4 years, after that first one to finally get this one, but then on top of that, the extra 5 months or whatever it was. But this is the one where when I checked in at the shop, they said, we just did not get as many, we're checking with the distributor, we're trying to get more, but if you really want it, you better get here early because it's going to go. And I got there early. I got it. I checked, they were updating their quantities, their stock online throughout the day, and I want to say by the time I got home, it was gone. So I was really happy. I've checked secondary markets for it since that day. It's really tough to find right now. I think I found one store. I guess if I was looking at 1 p.m. Eastern, as folks are putting their stock online, I probably could have found a copy at list price if I had to. I really wouldn't have wanted to do that. So I was thrilled to get that. I was really happy overall. And, I think, overall this was a good drop for me. Looking ahead to the third drop, there's really not a ton on there. There's the Lou Reed, John Cale songs for Drella that I'm interested in. There's a Johnny Cash release that I'm interested in. There was a couple others. It wasn't a really deep lineup. There's like a Beck 7-inch single that I'm interested in. I don't think any of those are ones that, if I can't get them, I'm probably not going to lose sleep over. The Fleetwood Mac one, because I had the complete set up to this point. I love Fleetwood Mac and I love Rumors. That one would have been a huge disappointment. I probably, had I not gotten it, would have, gone into Discogs or eBay and tried to deal with flippers at that point, and overpaid a little bit for it. But this last round, there's not a whole lot out there, so I'm not sure yet. I'll see kind of, I guess, the quantities and what's coming out, what the prices are for each thing, and decide from there. Am I going to line up early, or will I just take my chances a little bit later in the day? So that's kind of to be determined. And then we of course got Black Friday coming up, and where that list might be, we should probably be seeing that in the next few weeks. Curious to see combination of the pandemic and obviously the issues with pressings this year. The stores have been the plants have been backed up, with COVID shutdowns, and then of course the fire at the Apollo mastering plant, and whether or not there's enough blanks to etch out some of these. Is to be known. Where that stands is kind of a mystery, or has everything pretty much gone overseas for mastering that way? Tough to say. So, I'm kind of curious to see how deep that lineup is going to be for Black Friday this year. Overall, my thoughts, like the drops versus just doing it on a single date. I didn't feel like it accomplished the goal of creating more social distancing. I think, you always have record store days where people that come out are only looking for one or two things. So I'm assuming there's a lot of folks that they're only going to go to the first one or only going to go to the second one. But I think those folks are kind of the minority of the record buyers. I think the vast majority of folks that go to record store day, and this is just my guess, but based on the stacks of wax I'll see people walking out of the shop with, those folks, they're going to the first one, they're going to the second one, they're going to the third one. All it's doing is maybe spreading out your purchases, but you're still doing it 3 times instead of one. And I've seen the comments too about it's helping in the wallet. And I guess, if you're paying by credit card and you get the bill, instead of one big bill, you get 3 smaller bills. I guess that's helpful. But, in the long run, if you're going to spend that money in April, it probably doesn't make a huge difference. Unless, of course, you're having financial issues, because of the current situation. And hopefully at that point you're making smart choices. You got to prioritize life over things like, records. If I'm in a tough pinch, I'm not buying vinyl. I'm supporting my family. So, that's just kind of my take on it. I think it's gone well. No complaints overall, but I don't think that intended goal of like spreading out the crowds was necessarily achieved. I mean, the line out in front of the store was probably as long as it normally would have been had it been a full record store day. One thing I did pick up recently, and this gets back to the notion of you can get these things in the future. And about the flippers, and they come out and you buy something at $20 and an hour later it's being sold or at least listed, and you see bids on eBay, it's a $20 thing going for $50-$60 and selling for it. But if you have some patience, you can find something and not overpay for it. I mean, that's not everything. I mean, there's obviously things that the quantities are super low, the demand is super high, and once it's gone, and those prices never come down again. But I think those are the exception as opposed to being the rule. I think the vast majority of things can be got down the road at a reasonable price. Might it be more than you would have paid initially? Sure. A lot of stuff that I've gotten, the value is probably, I probably haven't made money on it. Some things I definitely have, but I think the majority of things that I've purchased at record store days over the years have just, maybe held their value, maybe decreased a little bit, maybe increased a little bit, but I wouldn't say that they're overboard in any way. So this came out, I want to say, let's see, 2011. It is Nirvana's Nevermind the Singles. It is 4 10-inch EPs. It was limited to, I can't remember how many total. I have copy number 5,751. I wanted to get this when it came out. Now, it came out in 2011. I have young children, twins. They were born in 2011. I did go to Record Store Day that year. I did not spend a lot of money at Record Store Day this year. This was kind of on my list of something I wanted. I remember it generally going for around $60. This still has a price tag on it. It says 55. It actually looks like the price tag from the store I used to shop from. I don't remember where. I bought this on Discogs recently. And I can't remember where it shipped from, but I'm pretty sure this came from one of the stores in Wisconsin that I shop from. It was, the listing said played once, and basically that's it. Really good. I probably paid about the same for it now as I would have paid back then. So patience, it paid off in this case. So if you are looking for something, if you do miss out, try to have a little bit of patience. I mean, don't necessarily spend, if like you take that Space Hog release that came out for the first drop. I know that was one of the hot items. It's something that I thought about, like, maybe I'll get it, but I wasn't a huge Space Hog fan, so it's not something I deemed necessary for myself. I know a lot of people really wanted it. They didn't set the market on that one very well. I think they underestimated the demand, didn't print a whole lot, and now that's one that's probably going to be expensive for a long time until they maybe come up with a different pressing of that. Even though it was listed as an exclusive release, it's not to say they won't just put it out on black wax at some point. But that one, it was immediately going for well over $100. I've seen the price slowly come back down on it. I think a lot of folks bought it thinking they were going to flip it, and maybe are holding on to it. And I think as more and more people hold on to their copies and then ultimately try to sell it, it'll come down a bit. Will it be $30? Probably not. But that's not to say it might not be $60 or $70, which, considering the number that were pressed, which wasn't very many, that might be a price, if you really want it, you might have to live with. But, it would be certainly better than, I see a lot of the listings for it on Discogs at well over $100. So, give it some thought. Obviously, if it's something that means a lot to you and you're willing to pay for it, that's great. But as I've told a lot of folks over the years, just have a little patience and you're bound to find something. So tell me, what did you get? Did you get any releases I did? How was your experience at Record Store Day with the drops this year? Or did you just completely blow it off with no interest whatsoever? I know there's a debate raging within the vinyl community regarding Record Store Day. So tell me what you think. Give this video a like, subscribe to my channel, and we'll be putting more videos out shortly. Thanks a lot.